Hi, my name is Patrick Regan. Welcome to the Operating Systems Linux, where we cover how to install, manage, and use the Linux operating system. In Part 8, Useful Linux Commands, Part 1, covers most of the common Linux commands that an administrator should know. Some of the commands include ls, man, cd, pwd, mkdir, rmdir, mv, cp, and mv. It also covers top, kill, and ps. For those who are going to take the A+ exam, there are questions at the end of the video. To get help for any Linux command, you can use the man command. For example, to get help on the ls command, you would use the following command: man ls. You can use spacebar to jump to new screens and Q to quit the man command. While you can use the dir command in Linux to list files and directories, the ls command is one of the more basic commands in Linux. dir is equivalent to ls-c-b. This screen shows the syntax for the ls commands. Linux commands have their options immediately after the command. The -l command shows the long format that displays detailed information about files and directories. If you want to sort by last modification date, you would use the -t. Here we show ls without any options and with the -l option. To list the contents of a folder, you can use the ls and the directory name. For example, to show the contents of the /etc folder, you can execute the following command: ls/etc. This screenshot shows sort by time. The cd command is used to navigate between directories. It requires either the full path or the directory name, depending on your current working directory. To change into the etc folder from the root directory, you would execute the cd etc. You can also move directories into the etc folder from any directory by specifying the full path. For example, to move into the etc directory, you would execute cd/etc. To move to the root directory, you would execute cd/. If you run this command without any options, it will take you to your home folder. The pwd command is mostly used to print the current working directory on your terminal. The pwd command is more useful when your terminal prompt does not include the current or entire directory. To make a folder, you use the mkdir command. Syntax is mkdir in the directory name. To make a dir1 directory, you would execute mkdir dir1. To make a dir2 directory underneath dir1 from any directory, you would execute mkdir/dir1/dir2. To remove a directory, use the rmdir command. To remove the dir2 folder, you would execute rmdir/dir1/dir2. The CP, short for copy, duplicates files and directories. The syntax for CP is CP, options, source, destination. To copy the first .txt file and call it second.txt, you would execute cp first.txt, second.txt. You can copy multiple files to a new directory: cp a.txt, b.txt, c.txt, /etc/new. To copy all files as source directory to a destination files, you would use the -R, which is short for recursive. cp-R folder 1 folder 2. Similar to Windows, Linux does support asterisk and question mark wildcard characters. cp-star.txt folder 1. You can also do interactive copying, which will warn you if you are to overwrite a destination file. cp-I star.txt folder 1. To move files and directories from one directory to another, we would use the mv command. To move file1.txt to the /home/patrick/desktop, you would use mv file1.txt /home/patrick/desktop. The mv command can also be used to rename files. mv file1.txt file2.txt. Similar to Windows, Linux does support asterisk and question mark wildcard characters. mv star.txt folder 1. You can also do interactive copying, which will warn you if you are to overwrite a destination file. mv-I star.txt folder 1. -F can be used to force to overwrite files. However, it will prompt you to overwrite write-protected files. rm removes or deletes files or directories. To delete a file1.txt file, you would rm file1.txt. To delete an empty folder 1, you would rm folder 1. To delete a folder 1 with files, you would use the -R option, rm.r folder 1. You can also use wildcard characters, rm-r star.txt. Note, file names and folder names are case sensitive. For example, pat.txt and pat.txt are two separate files that can exist in the same folder. So when performing most of the commands, you must specify the correct case when typing file and folder names. The sudo command, which is short for superuser do, is required when performing actions that require root or superuser permissions, such as changing the password for another user or even to copy files. This is equivalent to run as administrator command in Windows. These users who can use the sudo command need to have an entry in the sudo ers file located at /etc/sudoers, which should be modified with the vi sudo command. The su command, which is short for switch user, enables user to log in as another user, often the root user, and access their files and settings. Both of these commands will be covered in more detail in the Linux account and group management video. The df command in Linux gets the details of the file system. -H, the human option, makes it more readable. The free command gives you a summary of the memory usage with your computer, including physical RAM and swap memory. The -H, human option, is used to provide human-friendly numbers and units. The top command shows you information similar to Task Manager in Windows. It shows you real-time display of the data related to your Linux machine. First line shows you the time and how long your computer has been running for, how many users are logged into it, and what the load average has been over the past 1, 5, and 15 minutes. The second line shows the number of tasks and their states: running, stop, sleeping, and zombie. The third line shows CPU information. The fourth line shows the total amount of physical memory and how much is free, used, and buffered or cached. The fifth line shows the total amount of swap memory and how much is free, used, and available, memory that is expected to be recoverable from caches. The rest shows you the running processes, including the processes PID, user, process priority, virtual memory of use by the process, resident memory used by the process, shared memory used by the process, status of the process, %CPU, and %mem. Pressing the E key will shift the screen to a more readable format. Control-C to break out of the top command. The PS command lists running processes. PS without any options will list the processes running in the current shell. To see all the processes for a user, use the -U with the user login name. PS-U user1. To see the processes for all users, use PS-E. To show one screen at a time, add the pipe less or pipe more options. Enter key does one line at a time, spacebar does one screen at a time. Pipe less is a little bit faster because it does not load the entire content in memory before it displays the output. Q to quit the PS command. The kill command allows you to terminate a process from the command line. You need to provide the process ID or PID. To find the process, use the PS-E command with grep to find a process. The graphical program for TOPS is System Monitor. When you right-click one of the processes, you can see Properties, open the file, change priority, and kill a process. Question: what command would you use to find help about the mv command? Answer: man mv. Question: in Linux, what command would you use to list files in a directory? Answer: ls. Question: what command is used to rename a folder? Answer: mv. Question: what command shows the running processes on a machine? Choose two answers. Answer: PS and top. For more information, visit these sites. In summary, to get help for any Linux command, you can use the man command. While you can use the dir command in Linux to list files and directories, the ls command is one of the more basic commands in Linux. The cp, short for copy, duplicates files and directories. To move files from one directory to another and rename a file or folder, you would use the mv command. The sudo command, which is short for superuser-do, is required when performing actions that require root or superuser permissions, such as changing the password for another user or even to copy files. The top command shows you information similar to Task Manager in Windows. The kill command allows you to terminate a process from the command prompt. Thank you for watching this video. The next video will be Operating Systems, Linux, Part 9, Useful Linux Commands, Part 2. Thank you.